Hello, everyone! Today, we are going to learn about a very important story, the story of how our Constitution, the rulebook for our entire country, was made. It's a fascinating journey, and it's something every one of us should know.
Just think about that for a moment. How would you even begin to write one set of rules for a country with millions of people? A country that was just born, full of hope, but also facing enormous problems. Well, this was the huge challenge that our leaders faced right after we got our independence. So first, let's understand a very important point. The idea of our Constitution didn't just pop up suddenly in 1947. No, it was actually a dream that our freedom fighters had been thinking about for a very, very long time.
You see, the preparation started long before freedom. Way back in 1928, leaders like Motilal Nehru were already drafting what a constitution for India could look like. And by the time the official Constitutive Assembly was formed in 1946, a lot of the basic ideas for a free India had already been discussed and agreed upon. This was a huge advantage. Some of the most important ideas were already accepted by almost everyone. Things like universal adult franchise, which is just a simple way of saying that every single adult should have the right to vote, or the right to freedom and equality, and making sure the rights of minorities are protected. Because everyone agreed on these big ideas, our constitution makers had a solid foundation to build on. Now, even though there was agreement on these values, the situation in the country, well, it was extremely difficult. The path to writing the Constitution was not smooth at all. It was filled with some really big challenges.
This number, 10 lakh or 1 million, this is the estimated number of people who were killed during the violence of the partition of India and Pakistan. It was a terrible, painful time for our country.
So just imagine, the makers of our Constitution had to deal with all of this at once. There was the violence of partition. Then there was a huge task of bringing more than 500 princely states into the new India. And on top of all that, there was a lot of worry about the future of the country. It was a very, very tough time. So who were the people who were given this incredible responsibility? Well, they were the members of a special body called the Constituent Assembly. Let's learn a little more about them. Let's be very clear on what this was. A constituent assembly is basically a group of people who are chosen to represent the whole country. And their one specific job, their most important job, is to write the Constitution. Here are some important facts to remember. After partition, they were 299 members. The president of the assembly was Dr. Rajendra Prasad, and the person in charge of the very important drafting committee, the group that prepared the actual text, was the brilliant Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. And this is so important to understand. The assembly was like a mini India. It had people from different parts of the country who spoke different languages, belonged to different religions, and came from all walks of life. This diversity was its greatest strength because it meant that all voices could be heard. Okay, so we know who wrote the Constitution, but how did they do it? This is just as important. The whole process was done in a very careful, systematic, and open way. Nothing was hidden. This was not a quick job at all. It took almost 3 years. First, they decided on the basic principles. Then, Dr. Ambedkar's drafting committee prepared a version for discussion. And then, that draft was debated, clause by clause. They discussed more than 2,000 changes or amendments, over 114 days of meetings. Every single part was looked at with great care. In his final speech to the assembly, Dr. Ambedkar shared this very powerful thought. He was reminding everyone that writing the Constitution was just the first step. It gave everyone political equality, one person, one vote. But the bigger challenge of removing inequality in our society and economy was a journey that had only just begun. So, after all this incredible hard work, the Constitution was ready. Now let's look at the final steps and talk about why we still follow this amazing document so many years later. Now, it is important to remember these two dates. On the 26th of November, 1949, the work was finished and the Constituent Assembly adopted the Constitution. But it was fully put into effect 2 months later, on the 26th of January, 1950, and that is the day we celebrate as our Republic Day. This brings us to a very important question. Our Constitution was made over 75 years ago. The world has changed so much since then. So why do we still accept it as the most important law of our country? Well, there are a few very strong reasons. First, the Constitution wasn't forced on people. It reflected what most people at the time believed in. Second, as we discussed, the assembly that made it truly represented the entire nation. And third, the way it was made, with so much open discussion and debate, gave it a special kind of respect. That's why, even today, no large group in India has ever said that the Constitution itself is wrong. This famous quote from Jawaharlal Nehru really captured the spirit of the whole exercise. He reminded everyone that the real purpose of the Constitution was to serve the people of India, especially the millions who are suffering. It was about ending poverty, ignorance, and inequality. You can find the entire philosophy of our Constitution beautifully written in a short introduction right at the beginning. This introduction is called the Preamble. Many people call it the soul of the Constitution.
The preamble begins with these very powerful words, "We, the people of India." This means that the final power in our country lies with us, the citizens. It is we who have given ourselves this constitution. And it declares that India will be a sovereign, socialist, secular, and democratic republic. And that is the story of how our constitution was made. It's a gift from our freedom struggle, a product of great debate and wisdom. The final question is for all of us. The Constitution gives us the path, but it is our duty, as citizens, to walk on that path and help fulfill the dream of a better India for everyone. Thank you.